He witnessed his good friend Charles Capone murder Rachel and threatens to kill your whole family if you don't help out.
I was shipped off to prison.
They had never found the body, right?
And they still haven't.
Your first thought when you walk into prison is?
Survival.
Once he went into prison, there was a whole other threat that came to him.
It wasn't that Charles was gone now, but I started getting phone calls.
Threatening calls, or at least strange calls.
Phone calls, Mark, to the point to where they knew where I just left.
This is KMJ at KMJNow.com or wherever you stream. Welcome to the Marc Kapetan Show. This is attorney Marc Kapetan, your host. Today's show is brought to you by the Kapetan Brothers Law Firm. We've been serving the Central Valley since 1995. If you or anybody you know has been injured in an auto accident, a truck accident, or a motorcycle accident, give us a call at 559-498-8000. Or if you've been arrested or cited for a criminal offense, call the Kapetan Brothers at 559-498-8000. That's 559-498-8000. Kapetan Brothers. We are the Valley's law firm. Folks, today's interview is part 2 of one of the most harrowing stories you'll ever hear on KMJ. If you did not hear part 1 of my interview with author David Stone, the author of You're in This Now, I want you to go to the KMJ podcast or on my YouTube channel and take a listen to it to hear David speak about his role in one of the darkest crimes imaginable, and that's an accessory after the fact to murder. In his book, You're in This Now, David Stone recounts the night he witnessed his good friend Charles Capone murder Rachel, his wife or girlfriend, we're not quite sure, but in Moscow, Idaho in 2010. And the cover-up that followed, including the disposal or dumping of Rachel's body, to put it very, very bluntly, in the Snake River. He writes of his arrest, conviction, years in prison, and his struggles to find redemption through faith. He calls the book, You're in This Now, a story of the worst day of his life, but also a lesson of how the truth will set one free. Fair warning once again to the audience. We discussed many of the details of the crime on the last show. This is not a story for the faint of heart. It is raw, it is disturbing, and it's unforgettable. So join me for this rare glimpse into the depths of humanity. I'd like to welcome back the author of You're in This Now. Also present with us is Melanie Warner, who's going to come on a little bit later, who's the co-author of the book, David Stone. David, thanks again for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
David, we talked about the crime. Let's recap quickly. You witness, and we won't go through the fact that you're at a garage and there's a car repairs being done, etc. You witness Charles Capone, who somehow is related to the Capone crime family back in the day, loosely probably. Murder his wife. You come upon her. She's laying on the ground. He's on top of her, strangling her. You say, I've seen dead bodies in the military and in my job as a firefighter, and I obviously saw a lifeless body. He looks to you and he says, you're in this now. You're going to help me dispose of the body, basically. And if you don't, I'm going to go straight to your house, where I know your wife Elise works and lives, and your daughter Turbo, you nickname her Turbo. And I'm going to kill them. I'm going to go find your family in California. You get to the trial. You eventually have to now testify against Charles Capone. You participated in wrapping her body up with chains and dumping it into the Snake River. You have an arrest. You've been on the lam, not on the lam. You just kept it secret to yourself for 3 years. God knows how you did that. You're now at trial, right?
Yes.
You've made a deal with the prosecution that you're going to testify. Have you been in custody this whole time, or have you been out of custody?
I got out on bond, Mark, after they did after I told the story
right.
down in Lewiston, as we talked about last week. I had been down and I told the story. And so everything then started to come into place. I think one of the comments was, that fills the holes of the Swiss cheese.
They had never found the body, right?
And they still haven't.
Okay, and so you could wait X amount of time and declare a person dead, or you could find some sort of evidence of the body, such as blood stains or something like that. Did they find anything?
I think there was something on a glove or something like that.
And that's what they used.
I don't.
Okay.
Right, and I wasn't into any of that because I was just trying to stay focused, and I don't know what normal was. As I mentioned last week, I don't know what normal is even today.
During the 3 years that you had to remain silent, you're still interacting with Charles Kapetan?
No, Charles had, got locked up on a gun charge not long after this happened, because there was a picture of him and Rachel at a hunting camp, and they were both holding a rifle. Well, Charles is a felon, a prior felon,
okay,
and was still not supposed to have a gun.
Was that used, do you think the police just wanted him in custody?
I think so.
Okay.
And
so it made it easy on you that you didn't have to interact with this guy.
At that point.
Okay.
But the funny thing, well, it's not funny at all, Mark. The scary thing about it was, it wasn't that Charles was gone now, but I started getting like phone calls.
Threatening calls, or at least strange calls.
Phone calls, Mark, to the point to where they knew where I just left.
Right.
I left a restaurant one time, and they asked me how was the food at that restaurant that I had just left. I've had people when I'm on the street walk up to me and say, "Is all quiet? Everything all quiet?"
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Are you keeping your mouth shut?
Basically is what they're saying.
But you didn't know him to have any connections with any organized crime or anything like that? He was the Christian buddy of yours, right, that went to church with you?
And the story was that's why he left that area and the family.
Where his previous life was?
Correct. And that's why they moved out west. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know.
Okay, so basically he's in prison, but just like any other gang boss or whatever, he's running the show from prison, basically.
Who knows?
You don't know.
I know.
You never have figured that out either?
I know he was running his mouth in prison because there's some things that came up as a result of him being locked up.
Running his mouth like, let's go get David Stone?
No, he was talking about things about Rachel, as far as they'll never find her. Or just
and is that what basically started turning the case, is that he started running his own mouth?
I think that's what it was, and that's why the arrests were made.
Well, then he's not related to Al Capone, because Al and his buddies would keep their mouths shut.
Yep.
Yeah, I am. I'm making a little bit of light of a very serious situation. Okay, you're now in trial. You've been promised leniency if you testify against him. And he's sitting there, as I'm a defense attorney, I know this, sitting right next to the defense attorney, and they say, calling David Stone to the stand, and you walk in for the first time and probably see him for the first time since he's been locked up?
Yep.
How many years was it at that point?
We went through arraignments and all that kind of stuff, and then there was a situation.
Oh, because you were being charged side by side with him.
Correct. At first, they were going to try to run a double trial with two different judges.
Oof.
That's what they were trying to do at first, and then, anyway, long story short, there was one day where we were both upstairs, Charles and I, and we came down, and there was a deputy that works for the sheriff's department. It was a jailer. And it was also a former landlord of Charles's, and he was behind us, and Charles, I guess, didn't know it.
Right.
And Charles looked over at me and says, "You shouldn't even fucking be here." And Ethan, his old landlord, didn't say anything, but he noted it, and that actually came up.
And that was used as evidence.
It did.
Let me ask you, when he said something like that, did you ever get a sense from, and we'll talk about you testifying in front of him, did you ever get the sense that he was in any way remorseful for his wife's murder, or at least sorry that he got you wrapped up into it?
I think on that statement right there, he was sensing that's why he said I shouldn't even be there.
Was that an apology from him, or do you think that is, you better get out of here and run, or whatever? Do you think in any way that was an apology, or was it, you got to get out of here because I know you're ready to turn on me and testify against me?
I've thought both ways on that, Mark. I'm not really sure what it is, but I think the second one that you said there was probably more.
Since the time of this case. So let me ask you real quick first. When you faced him to testify, did he show any emotion?
None.
Was it easy for you?
No, not at all.
Because you were afraid still?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And I knew Mark Monson, his attorney, and Ray Barker.
Yeah.
I knew both of them. Ray was a JAG attorney back in his day.
And during in the military. Did you ever have any sense that, well, let me ask you this. Did he ever, since the time you testified, because I'm assuming there's eventually a guilty verdict against him, right? He's serving how long?
A double life with 10-year enhancements on both
So good for you.
them.
He's so double life. Good for you. You'll never have to encounter him, at least. At any point since his verdict of guilty and him being sentenced, did he ever attempt to reach out, attempt to get a message to you, anything that would say his feelings on the whole situation?
No.
Nothing. Never heard from him.
No.
You serve how much time?
I did a 7-year number,
Yeah.
3 years incarcerated, 4 years on parole.
You were a good guy. You had one DUI. You had been clean and sober at the time of this crime for 7 years, I think you said.
Mm-hmm.
So you had never spent any time in prison, right?
No.
Or even in jail, for that matter. Maybe a night in the drunk tank or whatever during your DUI. You walk into jail for the first time. You have testified against a co-defendant, which is the worst thing potentially for anybody who's in prison, because there's this code of, bullshit code of ethics in prison that you shall not testify. And your first thought when you walk into prison is?
Survival. Straight up survival. Military style.
Did you play the tough guy?
No, not at all. I grabbed the Bible.
You grabbed the Bible.
And that's when it started. My free time was in the chapel.
You had already been a Christian. You'd already been going to the church. That's where you met Charles.
Correct.
And you were continuing to go to church even after this, after your this crime that had occurred, right?
Correct.
But you had, and we're going to go to a commercial right now. Safe to say that you had lost your faith, or you had lost the ability to accept the faith and Jesus and his blessings?
I pretty much lost everything at that point, Mark.
Yeah, we'll be right back with David Stone, author of You're in This Now. This is the Marc Kapetan Show on KMJ. Welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show on KMJ. We're going to get right back into it with David Stone. He's the author of You're in This Now, a true crime memoir of murder, guilt, and the secret of the Snake River, where his very good friend Charles Capone and he had dumped the body of Rachel, Charles Capone's companion. Also co-written by Melanie Warner, who's with us here today. So one of the questions that I had was, do you remember, or was there any theory ever come out as to why Charles wanted to murder his wife?
Not to my knowledge.
There's
no.
a story about a compact, though, that he had with another person about killing their wives. What's that all about?
There was a guy named Chris Porter that worked for me actually on a paint truck when I worked for the city street department, and one of the things that we do is paint different things throughout the city on the streets. So Chris worked for me on the paint truck, and he had a pretty good rap sheet. He was from the Seattle area, and anyway, long story short, I'd helped him out a few times, given him some cash. Elise and I'd given him computer and different things over time. And I guess he called the tip line, is what I was told.
Okay.
And came up with this story that Charles and I had some kind of pact to take out each other's wife. And anyway, so I guess he did this on the phone.
Right.
And my source told me, and it was through the investigation, that they went out the next day to his place, and there was no one there. They had abandoned the place. So this story, there's no signed statement, and he never testified.
All right, so just a rumor potentially.
Right.
All right. Did Charles testify?
Yeah. No.
In his defense, he didn't.
No.
Okay. Did he have anybody testify in his defense? Alibi witness, anything like that?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. So, yeah, it had no chance basically.
The only time I was up there was the day and a half that I was actually on the stand. Other than that, I was not up in that courtroom.
You're now in prison. You're doing a matter of months and years as far as that's concerned. You think you're doing 7 years basically. You reestablish your faith in God through how? Bible readings, group meetings.
I at first, when I first got incarcerated, I picked up a Bible there at in Moscow at Latah County Jail. And I just started going through it. It was a Celebrate Recovery Bible, and I just started going through it.
That's AA meetings, right? Celebrate Recovery.
Correct.
Right. But again, even though, let me ask you this. After this occurred, after the murder occurred, did you start drinking again?
No.
You stayed sober that whole time.
And to this day, my sobriety date's 5/11/2002.
It's funny, Marcella, what do I tell my clients? I want you to know your sober date like it's your birthday. So the fact that you said that, I know you're telling me the truth.
I don't celebrate my regular belly button birthday. I celebrate my
your
sobriety
belly button birthday.
Right. And I just celebrated a belly button birthday.
Yeah.
I just turned 62 on August 4th, the same day that my book launched on Amazon,
right.
And the same day that Miss Melanie announced that the book is going to be a movie.
Oh, good for you guys. Well, good for you. I mean, listen, we're telling a story, and you want everybody to know that the story is about redemption, finding God again. You're doing this, as you say, for Jesus Christ and for the people out there that need help, not because you want to somehow publicize this horrific murder, right?
JC is who I reference, not
JC.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's true. JC. Okay, yes. I get it.
No, but it's all about redemption.
I want to go back. Did you attend the funeral? Rachel's funeral?
There's no funeral.
Oh, because they never found the body, yeah.
And I've been incarcerated.
Did they ever have a funeral after this?
I don't know on that.
Any contact with the family, Rachel's family?
No.
Anybody come up to you at your sentencing? I've seen this before. They come up, their family members killed. Anybody at the sentencing come up and say, "We forgive you"?
Not after sentencing. But there was a situation, Mark, that came up at my request,
okay,
through my attorney, through the prosecutor, to ask Amber, the daughter of Rachel Anderson, to come to the courthouse so I could make an amends to her for my part.
Not part of sentencing.
No, this was, I'd already been sentenced, and I just wanted to make an amends to her before I was shipped off to prison.
Did it happen?
And she and her sister showed up, and her sister was probably, I think they were probably like 27 and 25, something like that.
Yeah.
And they both showed up.
I've never heard this happen before. They showed up.
And I was blown away because they both showed up. So when I walked in this room, shackled like a dog, and my escort that day was a former football player from the high school that I coached at.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You talk about humbling?
Yeah.
There you go.
And so they show up. You haven't been sent to prison yet.
Nope. And they show up on a Saturday. And so my attorney's there, the prosecutor's there, and one of his assistant prosecutors. We have this conversation, so they're able to ask me whatever they want. And that's what I told them. And when I was getting ready, when we finished and we were getting ready to leave, I'm not going to say exactly what Amber told me, but I will tell you that it was so significant that 3 days later, I was served papers that they dropped all no contacts. They dropped everything that was against me.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not. And I tell you, Mark, when I walked out of that room, that conference room upstairs in the Latah County courtroom that Saturday, I was ready to go to prison because the relief that JC just had given me from the victim's daughter, who was the spokesperson, what she had just said to me. I mean, one of the things that she also said was, "I believe you."
So the forgiveness was more important to you to relieve you of the burden that you said, "Fine, I will gladly do the prison time now," because that's what I was really seeking, the forgiveness, or the ability to now have someone forgive me so that I could go reestablish my faith in God and start forgiving myself?
No. I just went in there with an open mind and an open heart to be able to just make the amends, because that's what I've been taught in recovery.
So your amends was the act of contrition, as they say, that your amends was what released you.
Correct. And then the bonus was the fact that she accepted.
And she understood.
Exactly. I mean, that right there, only way to explain it, JC made that happen.
JC made that happen. All right. We're going to talk more with David Stone about his road to redemption and his connection with JC after this awful moment in his life. David Stone, You're in This Now, a true crime memoir of murder, guilt, and the secret of the Snake River. We'll be right back on the Marc Kapetan Show after this. We're back on with David Stone. This is the Marc Kapetan Show. He's the author of You're in This Now, but co-authored by a guest that we've added in here because she's out in the wings. You're making comments. Melanie Warner from Fresno. Welcome, Melanie, and thanks for being here with David Stone.
Thank you.
All right, David, let me ask you one question, then we're going to talk about writing the book with Melanie Warner. You finally get paroled. You come home, all right? Who's there to greet you? I mean, not physically. When you get home, you have a mother. Are your mother and father still around at this time?
We lost our dad 4 years ago.
Okay, so he's alive when you get out of prison, right?
He was.
Yeah. Okay.
But when I first got out, the plan was I had to have a parole plan, and it was to come back to Moscow, and I was going to be able to get my job back, which I had a cleaning business, and I don't know. It was like
well, listen. The important question is, who was the hardest to look in the face and say, "Yeah, I did this"?
Well, when I finally got home, it was my mom and dad, and they came from California with my sister Julie, the one that I mentioned in the book,
right,
to my sentencing. Because we went into sentencing.
And did they say this is the good boy? This isn't him?
There was no good boy about this, Mark. I mean, I participated in something that was horrible.
Right.
But they came with the understanding that I and my attorney, Brandy, who I actually left a message with, and she returned it today. But anyway, the understanding was we were going to have felony probation. And the judge, and that was allegedly what the prosecutor was going to be in agreement with.
Right.
And when we got into the actual sentencing, Judge Broody, which was the judge assigned to my stuff,
right,
he switched up and said that because I lied for 3 years, you're going to do 3 years. So he gave me credit for the 18 months that I was in custody.
But you had another 18 months to do.
And I did 18 months in prison.
We call that busting the deal.
Well,
he said, I'm not agreeing with this deal. You could either go back and start again, or you could take the 3 years that I'm indicating you right now.
He busted the deal then because I did 18 months. I got out July 18th of 2016, and I did 4 years on paper, and I discharged that number July 18th, 2020.
Dad was a World War II guy, military guy himself.
Yep.
Had been with your mom for 60-something years, I think?
70.
Right? 70 years, right?
70 years.
Did he look at you at some point and say, this is unforgivable? Or did he say, you're my son, and I know how you really are?
Unfortunately, Dad was getting dementia.
Oh,
and
maybe for the best, right? Hate to put it that way.
Yep.
Same thing with Mom. How did she take it? Forgive you?
Yeah. Yes, she has. And she's still, and that's who I'm staying with now.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Part of your rock in this matter was your ability to write this book with Melanie Warner. Melanie, how did you get in contact with David? How did you find out about this?
We had a mutual friend, and he said to me several years ago, I think this was back in like 2020. I think it was during COVID or right around there. And he said, oh my gosh, you have to meet my friend, David Stone, because he needs to write a book. So people see me as book babe, the book girl.
Yeah.
So everybody tells me their life story.
But everybody's got a story, right? So
Yeah.
why David? I mean, you're going to interact with a guy who participated in the cover-up of a murder.
I had, he first told me that he had been on Dateline, so I had that as a reference. I went and watched
we keep trying to forget the fact that you were on Dateline, David, because we want you on the Marc Kapetan Show. Okay.
Well, I watched the show, and it was fascinating to me, his role in this, and I immediately realized, a lot of people may judge his situation, but they don't know the big picture of everything that happened, and I wanted to know his side of the story. Right. And he wasn't very thrilled with how he was portrayed on that show. He didn't get to share his side of the story. And he did testify and risked a lot to put Charles Capone behind bars for everybody's safety. And he wasn't really getting the reward of that. So he didn't feel that his voice had been heard in that process or in court.
Yeah, but a devil's advocate would say, no, he did get his reward. He got a deal in this matter. But there was something important between you hearing his story and you, David, maybe not for people to forgive you or to have some sort of understanding, but there's always two sides to a story, and I just have this need to get out my story.
I would say that it was more on the lines that Pastor Charlie who I've referenced in the book several times, we just came to that point to where this is what needs to happen. It's about getting the truth out. As we prayed,
Right.
the truth will set you free.
Well, which is ironic, though, because the truth puts you into prison, basically. I mean, it's,
Right.
you know.
But he was already trapped in his own prison
Yeah.
inside, and people don't realize that. Like hearing the more of the details of his story and literally everything he went through. Most people think, oh, well, the truth set you free. Now everybody knows the truth. Now you just get to move on with your life. But what happened next is once he went into prison, there was a whole other threat that came to him for being somebody that had ratted out Charles Capone. You know what I mean?
Right,
And in prison, you don't want to be known as a rat.
Right.
So there was a whole other element to the story that wasn't told before, that was very, very personal. This kind of hell that he went through every day.
Yeah, and again,
of fearing his life.
I'm going to
constantly.
speak for half of the audience out there in KMJ land. I would say maybe even more, is that people don't care about the prison that he personally is in. But what's significant about it, and what I think people don't understand in even the line of business that I do, that sometimes you could do your prison sentence, but the 3 years that you spent hiding it was more of a prison to you, because it was more detrimental on your mental health, more detrimental to your life, and obviously completely detrimental to your family because it broke up the family and everything, right?
Correct. Yes, it has.
Well, and I think too, he had this fear of Charles Capone doing something to him. There was that part of the story, which is why he kept silent and was complicit in just following those directions. But then he gets to prison, and now even though he feels like Charles Capone can't get to him, there's other people in prison that can get to him.
Okay, then the question then is, now writing the book, there's even more a chance that Charles Capone could say, well, I don't like the fact that you wrote this book. Have you come to the point in your life where you say, I don't care what happens to me?
That's where I'm at. I look at it now as,
I've suffered I don't want to say this because poor Rachel there, but I've suffered a death of my spirituality, and I could care less what happens to my body.
I've looked at it like this, Mark. That other show that did that episode, they did no justice for me. I mean, realistically, they went off of stuff that this gentleman, Chris Porter, said, allegedly said.
Yeah, but David, I think people don't care about the justice to you, right?
Well, but here's the thing to remember. He didn't kill Rachel.
Yeah.
He couldn't prevent her death.
Right.
He didn't know that was happening. When he came out, she was already dead. So it's not like he could have saved her life, but he could have reported it sooner, but he was under that duress and the threat. Yeah. And so I think the interesting thing is, again, that prison inside of him, what would you do in that situation? Because most of the people, when I asked this question before I wrote the book, about 75% of people said I would have done what he did.
Right.
If my family were being threatened. A very small percentage said I would have told, and I wouldn't care what the consequences were of this bully Charles Capone.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is, David, you have to understand, because folks, you don't see this, and watch the YouTube video. As I become accusatorial to you, because I'm speaking on behalf of a lot of the people that are out there, is I understand. The people do have to understand, what would you do when a guy threatens, you just witnessed murder somebody and threatens to kill your whole family if you don't help out. But what's interesting is I could see even the guilt or the feeling that you have because you put your eyes down and you put your head down like, no one's ever going to believe me. And I could see it in your face as soon as I say some of this stuff. And it's just interesting to see that you're just never going to be the same. You have this... You may be free, but there's always going to be a part of you in this prison, basically.
Yep.
Even coming into the studio today and feeling trapped because he couldn't get through the elevator. You know what I mean? Like, it just triggers this PTSD of this experience. It was very difficult for him, feeling locked up and not anywhere to go. And that was scary for him.
And folks, listen, I don't expect for you to understand. I don't expect for you to forgive. And I don't think David does either. But he's setting the record straight. We're going to be right back with David Stone, author of You're in This Now, right after this on KMJ. This is the Marc Kapetan Show. Welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show on KMJ. We are back on with David Stone, author of You're in This Now, a true crime memoir of murder, guilt, and the secret of the Snake River. David was basically convicted of, what was the charge you were convicted of again?
failure to notify law enforcement or coroner of a death.
Of a death, yeah. This is involving the murder of Rachel
Anderson.
Thank you again. By her husband or partner, Charles Capone, who was a friend of David's, and David's participation in helping him dump, for lack of a better word, the body into the Snake River, which was never found. Still to this day, never found. David, before we even end this whole thing, I just want to thank you. I know and people may not have, the forgiveness in their hearts or any feelings of empathy. And I don't expect many of you out there to have any empathy, but I understand this was a hard thing for you to do and to discuss. And so I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Okay. I asked this of all the law enforcement personnel I have. I ask this of all the attorneys that come in, especially if they do criminal defense. This is the toughest question to me. Are there people who just make mistakes, or are there truly evil people in this world? And the one question I've never asked any of my guests before, which one are you?
I would say there are truly people that are evil people. And I'd say Charles is one of them.
You said you saw the devil in him.
I did. When he turned, there was no doubt in my mind that there was evil that was looking at me.
You said you're not.
And I'm not that guy. I think that I'm a kind person. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, like Judge Broody told me.
Right.
I mean, the judge that was overseeing me, that did my sentencing, said that I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and my sentencing was the 3 years because I lied for 3 years.
Is there a line between that you had to try to find while you were in prison and all these years later because of your Christianity, and then finding your way back into Christianity? Because you're not the guy who found Christianity in prison. You had it long before this.
Yes.
Right? You didn't find Jesus in prison. Is there a line in between the person who's evil like Capone and the person who's the good innocent kid like a baby that is newborn? Is there a line that you had to try to define where you were? Because I'm assuming you couldn't tell yourself from the very... You may have told yourself, I'm a good person, I'm a good person, I'm a good person, but you had to rectify that with the actions that you took.
Correct.
So what helped you define, or how would you define yourself as far as the good person that you were compared to this heinous act that was committed? If you had to explain to people, because you obviously encounter people, you may have new girlfriends, you may have new close relationships, and you have to try to tell them at some point during your relationship, by the way, I got to let you know, I did this horrible thing. So how do you explain it to people, and how do you explain to them, but by the way, you could trust me, I'm a good person?
Interesting question, Mark. I've had one girlfriend since then, and she was in recovery.
They have to, they understand more so, right?
And Judy had, I don't know, like 15 years more of sobriety than I did, and she understood. I told her everything, and on the first date, because I'm that guy.
Yeah,
I want you to know what you're going to be dealing with on what I done. That's just how I am. I'm a truthful guy. I got a sponsor right now that's 59 years clean and sober, getting ready to celebrate 60, and he's told me before, date him a couple times before you say anything, because who knows? You might not ever want to see them again, or they might not ever want to see you again.
Is Judy still around?
No.
Have there been other people where you tell and they walk away, or you don't get the phone call the next day, whether it's a friend or whether it's a girlfriend or something like that?
I'm not good at rejection, and I've learned over time through recovery, when I can identify that I'm not good at something, I can identify it. Well, top of the list, relationships. I'm not good at it.
But what and the reason why I'm asking is because obviously this thing is the most profound thing that would affect a relationship. So have you had those moments where the person doesn't call back, doesn't walk away, and then do you have you come to grips with it where you say, okay, completely understandable. I'm not going to let this emotion take over me, because obviously people aren't going to accept me. Certain people aren't going to accept me.
I've had a couple situations where I've had interest in someone.
Yeah.
And I've told them that I can understand. I said, if I don't hear from you, I understand.
David, I hate to tell you, that's been my whole life. So I don't think it's the crime that you committed that may have done that. I have those problems myself. So no, I'm teasing. So, you have a story. Well, let me ask you, do you feel differently about yourself? Will you ever get to the point to where you say, I'm the David that I started off with? Or is this always going to be something that you are judging yourself by?
I'll never be the David Stone that I was before April 16th of 2010.
Does God forgive you for it?
Oh, he already has.
Did you think there was a point in time where God would never forgive you for something like this?
No.
Okay.
No.
Christian, true and true, no matter the Golgotha, the sinners on the mount, Jesus looked at him and said, you'll be forgiven also, basically.
I've been a believer all my life. Even when I was out there ripping and roaring as a drug addict, I've always known the belief has been there, but I haven't always followed the path.
Yeah.
But there's always been a belief. But when I got incarcerated, things changed.
Yeah, let's reiterate the fact that you were 7-8 years sober at the time of this crime. So
Correct.
Drugs didn't play a part as far as that's concerned.
Nope.
Okay. You have a great story, and this may be, and the question I have as the last question always is the future for you, but I think this may exemplify it. Tell us about the day that you got out and you went to a 7-Eleven and you saw a kid at the 7-Eleven.
It was, so part of it was actually when I got out on bond for a while. Mm-hmm. And part of my bond was I had to do a face-to-face at the sheriff's station, which is the courthouse and the jail, all one building. And I had gotten out, and I was staying at the place where I had been working at an apartment complex, actually the McCoy Apartments. It was some people that had employed me as my commercial business. And anyway, long story short, I was walking by this convenience store that had been remodeled while I had been incarcerated. And I walked in, hadn't had any Copenhagen for quite a while. So I had some money in my pocket. I went in to get a can.
By the way, former guy in NA and AA meetings, there's got to be some vice
right.
there.
That's
right.
the old dope fiend in you, right?
Right.
So I went in and got a can.
Okay.
And I'm looking at this kid behind the counter, and I could just sense that there's something. So I said, you doing okay? He kind of like looked at me and ho-hummed and something about the girlfriend. I said, hey, you know what, hold on. I said, can I pray for you? And this kid lit up like a light bulb. He said, would you? And I said, yeah, but I've noticed you guys did a nice remodel and you got a lot of cameras in here. I said, can you come around the counter so I can put my hand on your shoulder? Like that, he was around, and I prayed for this brother, and away I went. The next morning, I walked by, and the kid was standing at the door. And he said, hey, David. So what's up, I said, no, I'm still good. I just got my can still. He said, no, come here. So I walked in, and as I was walking in the door, there's a newspaper stand right by the door. It's the old style where they got them folded in half.
Right.
My picture was on the whole front page of this thing. It says Stone out on bond.
Okay.
And so I walk in, and then the kid says, hey, thanks for that prayer yesterday. I said, well, hey, prayer's pretty powerful, isn't it? And he says, yeah. He said, but you don't understand. I said, what do you mean? I said, I know prayer's powerful. He says, no. When you were walking out and that guy that was coming in, that was my relief. And I had it all planned out. When I got off work yesterday, I was going home to kill myself. I said, prayer is pretty powerful, isn't it?
Wow.
So I've talked to that kid, and I got him turned on to Accelerate Recovery.
He was going home to kill himself because what was the guy that was walking in?
He was his relief.
Oh, his relief.
So he was that close to going home to take himself out.
And if you wouldn't have gone in at that moment and talked to that kid, he was going to go home and kill himself.
Yep. And then he goes to Celebrate Recovery and still doing it. So while I was then I went back to prison or to jail.
Wow.
And the lead pastor that's running the Celebrate Recovery, he came in one day And he wasn't the one that usually came to visit me.
Yeah.
And he came in and he says, Stoney, I got to tell you something. I said, what's that, Daryl? He says, man, our numbers are booming right now. And I said, well, that's good. He said, no, I need to tell you something. I said, well, you just did. He says, no, we're asking the same question that we always do.
Right.
I said, well, what's that? Where are you, how did you hear about us? And they're all men and women saying that there's this guy right now in Latah County Jail. He's just pumping the word of the Lord and recovery. And they're all saying it's the same person.
David
I said,
Stone.
well, who's that? David Stone.
David Stone.
I said,
So
praise God, Daryl.
Well, it sounds like you found your calling in life after a horrific time in your life. So, David Stone, author of You're in This Now, I really appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
We will see you next week on the Marc Kapetan Show. And thanks to my wonderful producer for sitting here, Marcella Solorio Taylor, always the best. So thanks. We'll see you next week on the Marc Kapetan Show. This is KMJ.